Ever since I was a child, I've always loved fiction and fantasy. I would always be in my own element thinking up stories, characters, and worlds for said characters to live in. You know, didn't make sense and they weren't the best, but they kept me entertained. And to this day, I still have an active imagination, just pondering and getting lost in the potential of what could be. When I graduated high school, I felt as if I was thrown into a world I wasn't really prepared to be in. I knew I had to pursue something and have a set vision for what I wanted to do, but everything was blurred. I knew I loved animation and making art, and I also knew that that's something that I wanted to do, but the path I took was a path I never saw myself going through. While I was still in high school, the concept of going to college and pursuing a secondary education was drilled into my head. It was a mentality that stuck with me and was a deciding factor in how I wanted to live my life. And it's not like you just had to go to college. It was often looked down upon when the college you selected was MDC. And if it's not that, then it was looked down upon if you don't have a countless number of colleges that you have to apply to, or a countless number of colleges that you get accepted to, never mind the scholarships that you have to get as well. I was going through high school thinking that if I don't get into a good art college, my art career would be a vision just out of my reach. And on the other hand, my family would bring up that my skills is something that I can shape and perfect without going to college. Hearing these different point of views had me conflicted, especially after I graduated. I was thinking, how would I be able to learn the things I have to learn without getting an education? I was talking to a family member of mine and they brought up technical school. It wasn't college, but it was a form of education that I can still pursue without spending so much money. It was cheaper and more affordable. I was hesitant at first, but decided to jump on it. I took a course on project management since I had a passion for opening up my own animation studio. It was great. The course was able to teach me so many things that I didn't know before. It felt like I was actually doing something and making my way on something that I wanted to do with my life until I finished. Yeah, it felt incredibly rewarding with the things I've learned, but I felt that same feeling of being directionless when I left high school. There was another technical school that was on my mind at the time, anim school, which was something I was aiming for at the time. And while it was cheaper than most, it was still quite expensive, so I knew I had to get money somehow to afford my schooling. It was here when I brainstormed a potential life plan for me to work on. It felt amazing to finally have a direction for me to go down. My plan was simple, get a job and after apply to anim school, then get another job within the animation field. Then after that, I would start building up my own animation studio. Simple, right? Well, it turns out the first step was hard enough. Simply looking for a job within art was a step I was willing to take, but the step wasn't willing to take me, if that makes sense. I felt helpless. I wasn't getting a response, and I was just thinking about how my friends are off pursuing college and achieving their dreams while I'm here trying to look for a job with nothing but a project management certificate under my belt. I felt empty and I felt like I wasn't achieving anything. I talked to my mother about how I felt during this time and she was able to help me through so much and suggested making a vision board. Write all my goals down and write what my final goal looked like, what my passion was, what success looked for me. Having this conversation with my mother was like a windshield wiper, wiping away all the rain that clouded my vision. I was thinking about what she said and returned to the drawing board. I knew I wanted to create an animation studio and create stories that gave me the same wonder I felt as a child watching Studio Ghibli and Steven Universe, and here it was. Just simply thinking about what I would call my animation studio, what my branding would look like while still incorporating all the whimsicality I felt and I wanted to put. And here it was, where Odyssey came into my mind. A name that includes the adventure that I wanted, a name that feels whimsical in a way to say, a name that resonated with me, a name that made an impact. And Odyssey is not just an adventure, but a voyage that leads to growth. A voyage that you just don't forget about, at least for me. I knew. I knew I wanted to deliver that same impact to the people that view my work within Odyssey. Now, it was here where I was thinking, what is Odyssey? I knew what it meant to me, but how can I communicate what it meant to me to the people that view my work? How can I communicate it in a way that they feel the same way of how I feel? That whimsy. Now, you might be thinking, what is Odyssey? Well, to put it simply, Odyssey is a name that contains an acronym of what it is, an acronym that is a collection of pieces that come together to form a greater narrative. Now, what are these pieces? First, you have the Starlight Gallery, which obviously, as it says in the name, is a gallery, but it showcases the beginning stages of the stories I want to tell, the original concept art and ideas that live within that art that is showcased in this gallery, a nursery of stories, to put it shortly. Second is the Emporium, which is where these ideas are brought to the audience, presented for you to obtain. And lastly, the Astronave, where these ideas are further fabricated and processed to form the story it is meant to tell, the place where these chronicles come to life. I want Odyssey to tell stories that lead you to growth within the audience that watch them. Stories that keep you pondering even after completion. Stories that make you see the world in a different perspective. Stories that provide relatability within the characters and you. Within Odyssey, within the stories of Odyssey, lies a message that's told through the events of the story. Messages that communicate concepts that aren't really explored through media and provide a fresh twist for the audience, a breath of fresh air. These ideas are told through conflicting stories where the line between both sides can get blurred, reflecting how life really is. Although Odyssey communicates more realistic, nuanced themes, I want it to be told in a very fictional setting to create that sense of whimsicality and escapism for its audience. Finally, now I have a plan. A plan that I want to go through, and it doesn't include college or getting a degree, but a path that is completely new to me, a path that I'm still learning about even to this day, a path that I'm ready to share with you all as I venture further. So what's next? What's next for me? What's next for Odyssey? Well, I know what's next, but for you, I guess you'll have to wait and see.